Hello, everyone. This is Tana Liandilo from Group 7, and the topic we chose is Neoclassicism, which happened in the 1750 to the 1850s. Next page, please. Let's start with what is Neoclassicism? I didn't encounter this before, so I guess we don't know what Neoclassicism is. Or it's just me? Neoclassicism comes from the Greek word neos, which means new, and klassikios, that which translates to us of the highest rank. Neoclassicism in art is an aesthetic attitude based on the art of Greece and Rome in antiquity, which invokes harmony, clarity, restraint, universality, and idealism. It was also a Western change in how several different disciplines approach their work in decorative and visual arts, literature, theater, music, and architecture that drew inspiration from the art and culture of classical antiquity. So, what is classical antiquity? As I know, some of us don't know what it is. So I'll be explain it. Classical antiquity is the connecting development of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, known as Greco-Roman world. So let's get off the topic first. The painting from the left side, which is the portrait of Anna Pitt as Hebe from 1792, which Louis Elizabeth Vigée Lebron painted. In these times, men would typically take on iconic figures from history, showing physical and moral strength through someone's else characteristics, like the Greek gods. And women often posed as virtuous allegorical themes such as love or poetry. Miss Anna Pitt was 16 in here, and she portrayed as Hebe, daughter of Zeus and Hera, goddess of eternal youth, cupbearer to the gods, and guardian of the fountain of youth. The painter, Louis Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun, was born on April 16, 1755, also known as Madame Lebrun, and she was a prominent French portrait painter of the late 18th century. Her artistic style is generally considered part of the aftermath of Rococo with elements of an adopted neoclassical style. Her subject, her subject matter and color palette can be classified as Rococo, but her style is aligned with the emergence of neoclassicism. Vigée Lebrun created a name for herself in Asian regime society by serving as portrait painter to Marie Antoinette.
Okay, so now that neoclassicism had been explained by Dana here, now we're going to look at I mean now we're going to look at this handsome man. Here you can see a portrait of Johann Joachim Winckelmann. He is an art historian and archaeologist that was born at Brandenburg, Germany. Although his family was poor, they were still able to afford education, where he showed deep, passionate interest in the great classics. Though he also studied medicine, law, and theology, it was still difficult for Johann to find a job after his graduation. However, in 1748, his luck changed when he was hired as a librarian that marked a major turning point in Johann's life. The library he was working in was filled with works of the great classics, as well as the Enlightenment texts and art books. He then used the library as his source of research and produced his very first book titled Thoughts on the Imitation of Great Works in Painting and Sculpture. In 1755, where the main idea of his work is, with the simple and noble themes, were what made art great and that greatness could be achieved through imitation and respect for the past. Almost immediately, his work was a major hit that brought him fame, and he had been introduced to Enlightenment circles throughout Europe. And in the same year, his work was published. Winckelmann was given a massive opportunity by Augustus III to study more about art, and he even wanted to sponsor Johann to live in Rome because he was impressed with his work. Additionally, Johann made another book called The History of Art in Antiquity, where he claimed that the goal of art was to portray beauty, and the book had been a crucial part of the development of the civilization. Because he also included civilizations outside of Greece and Rome, such as ancient Egypt and Etrusca, and because of that, it cemented him as one of the founders of art historical discipline. Sadly, even though he was famous, his success didn't last long because he was murdered on June 8, 1768. Though there were theories that he was homosexual, that's why he got killed, but it hasn't been confirmed and remains a mystery till this day.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Mr. Mark Anthony. Now let's head start to the paintings of Neoclassical era. Can you recognize any of these paintings seen in the screen? Let's start first from Napoleon's painting. This painting is called Napoleon Crossing the Alps, created by French famous artist named Jacques-Louis David. As you can see on the painting, Napoleon is leading the army across the dangerous Path Mountain. This mountain is called Saint Bernard. If you don't know Napoleon, or in French, Napoleon Bonaparte, and he is known as a French military leader and a political leader. He is the one who rose to prominence during the French Revolution and won several successful campaigns. The artist David depicts Napoleon as a glorious victor. You can see him, his arm outstretched in order pose and sitting on a wild majestic horse. Napoleon really likes the great leaders of the Holy Roman Empire. That is why he himself looks like a typical Roman equestrian statue in the painting. You can see that in the painting, he looks like the calm within storm, and he was surrounded by this unnavigable territory and harsh surrounding. His facial expression is very unrealistic because what kind of person has a calm and composed face in the middle of the war? Well, this painting is meant to be like that, perfect and easily to idealize. That is why Napoleon is not just a military leader but also a political leader. Now, let's take a look in his surroundings. If you look closely on the stone, there's a sketch in the stone. There's Hannibal, Charlemagne, and Magnus. If you know this name, they are the powerful men Napoleon is following. This painting is a great example of neoclassical because Napoleon wanted to connect himself with the great leaders of the Roman Empire. This is not just an ordinary painting. This is for propaganda. He wanted to be seen as a perfect leader for a fallen country. Now let's head to the second painting, which is the waterfalls of Tivoli, Claude Joseph Vernet. This landscape demonstrates his signature style as he was remembered as the main subject and water. Water is the main theme of his painting. A subject, Anian river falls, all the Villa Gregoriana in Tivoli, in Latium region in Italy. For those who don't know Joseph Vernet, he was a predominant French landscape painter of the 18th century, contributing to a long French tradition.
To continue on with the paintings, here to the left is a painting called Echo and Narcissus by Benjamin West, which was made in 1805. Now, who is Benjamin West? Benjamin West was an American artist who painted famous historical scenes such as the death of Nelson, the death of General Wolfe, Treaty of Paris, and Benjamin Franklin drawing electricity from the sky. Entirely self-taught, West soon gained valuable patronage and he toured Europe, eventually settling in London. Now, Mr. Benjamin West was born on October 10th of 1738 in Springfield, Pennsylvania, United States, and died March 11, 1820 in London, United Kingdom. In this painting of his, consists of three or so characters. Now, why do I say three? Even though there's many things, whatever that is, dryads, I guess you could say, nymphs. But in truth, those could be anything. So, Echo, as you can see in the back, is a nymph that was cursed to speak or repeat the last words of every sentences she hears. The reason she was cursed was because that she loved talking, albeit a little too much. And the second character, or the main focus or emphasis of the painting, is Narcissus. Narcissus was the son of a river god and a nymph. When Narcissus was younger, an oracle was consulted about his fate. The oracle stated that Narcissus would live long if and only if he doesn't discover himself. As Echo was walking through the woods, she stumbled upon Narcissus and immediately fell in love. Narcissus saw Echo and rejected her, as he usually does. And in her Echo, heartbroken, was spotted by the goddess Nemesis. Nemesis, in anger, cursed Narcissus to fall in love with his own reflection. As Narcissus was walking through the woods, yet again, he saw himself in a river or a pond in the reflection of it. Immediately, stunned by himself, captivated, he became detached from reality, looking only at himself. Until then, or until the day he died. Echo, all the while being there with him until he died. Now, on to the right is a painting or an illustration called The Fall of the Giants by Francisco Bayeux Subias, 1764. Now, Mr. Francisco Subias was a Spanish painter in the Neoclassic style whose main subjects were religious and historical themes. He is best known for his frescoes. His brothers Ramon and Manuel are also known painters. Born March 9, 1734 in Zaragoza, Spain, and died August 4th, 1795. Now, in Olympus, the fall of the giants, we can see the gods of Olympus going against the Gigantomachia, or the War of the Giants in Olympus. What is Gigantomachia? Gigantomachia is the term used for the war between the gods and the giants, who were the children of Gaia and Tartarus. Gaia being the earth or the earth mother, or as one would call it now, Mother Nature, and Tartarus being hell or the abyss.
Uh, Thank you, Ryuta. Now I am presenting you some busts or sculptures from the Neoclassicism. First is the work of Jean-Antoine Houdon. He is a great sculptor of the French Enlightenment. He was renowned for his portrait portraitures, which earned him recognition. Um, he was born in Versailles and died at the age of 87 in France, and began sculpting at the age of 9 and underwent the long training prescribed by the Académie Royale. He uses the combination of the elements of classicism and naturalism in his works. His style of making his works made him among history's greatest portrait sculptors. This work of him represents Francois-Marie Arouet de Voltaire, a renowned French philosopher whose intelligence dominated the neoclassical era. As shown in the image, the sculpture includes features such as the philosopher's thinning hair, smile lines around his lips, and wrinkled face. It was popular for French aristocrats at the period to be tête nu or bareheaded, which is why they kind of represented it in the sculpture. Who then created this portrait with the simplicity of traditional Roman sculpture, allowing Voltaire's character to shine through. Next is the sculpture made by Antonio Canova, the Psyche revived by the Cupid's kiss. Antonio Canova was the most famous artist in Europe during his time. He began sculpting in Venice, then soon propelled him to Rome. His graceful compositions and ability to carve and finish to marble to resemble living flesh established his reputation as an artist of beautiful works. This work was inspired by the mythological story of Cupid and Psyche, as told in The Golden Ass, a Latin novel by Lucius Apuleius. This sculpture represents the moment when Cupid kissed Psyche to revive her. Canova was also known as the sculptor of grace and youth. Just like Houdon, Canova's sculpture were made with a scientific approach to have more realistic, like the feathered wings and the rough rocks at the base. Canova's works has its own similarity. It is the handle near the base. This style of him makes his works even more realistic as it emphasizes the details as it revolves on its base. Last is the sculpture of Antonio Canova, the Daedalus and Icarus. It was inspired by the mythological story as well. The sculpture shows the Daedalus standing and fixing wax wings on the shoulders of his son Icarus, who is standing next to him with tools spread around them. According to the legend, he was doing this so that both he and his son might fly away and avoid imprisonment. The bust was a representation of Daedalus, who was believed to be the mythological ancestors of all artists. So that was our presentation about the Neoclassicism. Thank you for listening.